So a lot of people don't believe that Mexicans, Hispanics, Latinos, and so-called Native Americans are actually descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? But the reason that they don't believe that is because they're unlearned in the scriptures, in history, and in archeology as well. Because if you go into those, it's very clear to show that we are descendants of the Most High's chosen people. So go ahead and give me Genesis 49 and 14.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49, verse 14. Issachar is a strong ass, couching down between two burdens.
So it says Issachar, which is one of the 12 tribes of Israel, is a strong ass, which is what? A donkey, right? Couching down between two burdens. So what does a donkey do? It works hard, right? Just like the Mexican people work hard to make their money, right? Like this brother was an electrician. I do landscaping work. We've done everything from construction work to washing dishes to cooking to, we do everything that's hard that nobody else wants to do. That's what our people do, right? That's why it says you're a strong ass couching down between two burdens. Now the two burdens just represent the two loads that you would load on a donkey's back, right, to keep them evened out. But also spiritually, if you look at it, Mexico is in the middle of the United States and Guatemala. Guatemala has over 100 murders every week in its province, right? So either way, on both sides, they got it bad, right? So that's what it's talking about, couching down between two burdens. So now go ahead and give me First Chronicles.
This is the book of First Chronicles, chapter 12, verse 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times.
So it says the children of Issachar had understanding of the times, right? The Mayan people, right here, got a Mayan depiction behind us. The Mayan calendar is more accurate than the Gregorian calendar that we use today, right? And they knew that there wasn't 365 days in the year. They actually knew it was a little bit more, and they even took that into account. And they're more accurate to the decimal than the Gregorian calendar is today, which is why we have leap year in today's calendar, right? So go ahead and give me Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. So that's just a couple of the hints at who the tribe of Issachar was, right, or is today. But now we're going to go over a few of the curses. So when we go over the curses, you need to understand this in Ecclesiastes 1 and 9 in order to understand that we're going through the same curses that our ancestors went through way back in the days. So go ahead.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be.
So the thing that has been in the past is that which shall be. Go on.
And that which is done is that which shall be done.
So that which is done is that what shall be done, which will continue to happen, right? Go ahead.
And there is no new thing under the sun.
And there's no new thing under the sun. So go ahead and give me Lamentations chapter 5. So basically what it's saying is like what they tell you in school, right? They'll tell you that history repeats itself. It's a cycle, right? It just keeps repeating itself and repeating itself. So these curses and the things that our people have gone through in the past are going to continue to happen to our people and are happening right now because we don't come back to the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Go ahead.
This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 5 and verse 2. Our inheritance is turned to strangers.
So our inheritance is turned to strangers. Our inheritance is the land that we live on, right? Which go ahead and zoom in on this real quick. So our inheritance is the land, right? This is a map from 1794, I believe. This is the land of Mexico, all right here in yellow, right? This is what was considered the United States in green. So our inheritance, even before they came over here, this was native land, right? Was turned to strangers. Who are the strangers? The strangers are the other nations of people, right? So go ahead.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 5, verse 2. Our inheritance is turned to strangers. Our houses to aliens.
Our houses to aliens. So what do they call the Mexican people that come back to their own land now?
Illegal aliens.
Illegal aliens, right? But who's the real illegal alien if this was our land and they stole it from us? Go ahead.
We are orphans and fatherless.
We are orphans and fatherless. So go ahead and get it. Zoom in on this. We are orphans and fatherless. These are a bunch of native, what they would call Indian orphans, right? In the Carlisle Indian School, which started in 1879. Here's a picture when they would come in, dressed in their native clothing, dark skin because they were out in the sun. right here, and then we got them 3 years later after being colonized and Americanized, right? Europeanized. So that's what it means when it says they are orphans and fatherless. Go ahead.
Our mothers are as widows.
Our mothers are as widows because when they came over here and started to colonize and rape, rob, and kill all the Native Americans and Native Mexicans here, who's the first people that they killed? The men, right?
Yeah.
The men, because they were the ones that were going to fight back. So they left the kids orphanless or orphans, and the mothers as widows. Go ahead.
We have drunken our water for money. Our wood is sold unto us.
So we have drunken our water for money. So in my house, all we drink is natural spring water, right? So where does that come from? Natural spring, right? So that's our water. That's what we're supposed to be drinking from. We're not supposed to be going out and buying our own water that comes from our own land. It also says we have bought our wood, or our wood is sold unto us, right? Back in the day, me and this brother right here, we could be like, oh, you know what? We just had a new addition to the family. Let's build another little cabin, another little house, right? A teepee, something like that. But now what do we got to do? We got to pay somebody to do it, right? And not only that, they're going to tax us for the land. They're going to tax us for the materials. They're going to we got to get a building permit to build it, right? To read that verse one more time.
We have drunken our water for money. Our wood is sold unto us.
So, drunken our water for money, and our wood is sold unto us. One more verse.
Our necks are under persecution.
Our necks are under persecution. So if you think about it, really, so-called African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, we're the ones under persecution, right? Everybody sees all the killings from police, and most people don't know this, but actually, Native American people are the most likely people to get killed by a cop. So we see on like Instagram, Facebook, and all that, we see so-called African Americans getting killed all the time, right? But it's actually percentage-wise, Native Americans and Hispanics get killed more than that. We just don't see it as much on social media and things of that nature, right? Read that one more time.
Our necks are under persecution. We labor and have no rest.
So we labor and have no rest, right? So give me Micah chapter 2. Micah chapter 2. So go ahead and zoom in on this one picture real quick too. So nowadays, this is what happens to the so-called Mexicans and Latinos, Hispanic people that come from Central and South America, right? This is what happens. They come over here, they separate them from their families, and they put them inside, what do they even call them?
Barricades.
Cells?
Yeah,
Cages?
they're basically prisons, right? They're going to call them schools or housing for immigrant children, but they're basically prisons. They're getting them ready for the prison system, right, is what they're doing. So go ahead and start on verse 1. Micah 2 and 1.
This is the book of Micah, chapter 2, verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity.
So woe to them that devise iniquity. Woe meaning death, danger, destruction to them that devise iniquity. Go ahead.
And work evil upon their beds.
And work evil upon their beds, where they live, right? Go ahead.
When the morning is light, they practice it.
So as soon as they wake up, they're already ready to do evil. Go ahead.
Because it is in the power of their hand.
So why are they doing it? Because it's in the power of their hand. If you read Job 9 and 24, it says the whole earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So the ones who rule this place are doing evil, right? Because it's in their power. Go ahead.
And they covet fields and take them by violence.
And they covet fields, they take fields by violence, right? Go ahead.
And houses and take them away.
And they take away people's houses. Go ahead.
So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage.
So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. So like we just looked at the so-called Native American or Native Mexican heritage, they oppressed that heritage, right? Most people don't even know if somebody thinks they're Mexican American, right? They don't even realize that the land we're standing on right now today is actually their land, and it was just stolen from them less than 200 years ago, right? So go ahead and read that verse 2 one more time.
And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage.
So they oppressed our heritage, so now we don't even follow or even know our own heritage, right? So go ahead and give me Deuteronomy 11. Deuteronomy 11 and start on 26. So why, if we are the Most High's chosen people, the descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel, is all this happening to us, to our people, right? If we're his chosen people, don't you think that these things will skip over us, right? But there's a specific reason why this is happening.
26, sir?
Yeah, start on 26. Go ahead.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11, verse 26. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse.
So Moses was telling the Israelites, right? The Most High told him, I'm setting before you this day a blessing and a curse. Go ahead.
A blessing if ye obey the commandments of the Lord your God.
So a blessing if you obey the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Bible, right? Go ahead.
Which I command you this day.
Go on.
And a curse if ye will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God.
And a curse if you won't obey the commandments, right? So if he is our Father, our heavenly Father, right? A father that loves his children is going to punish them and try to correct them, right? So that's what he's talking about right here. Go ahead, one more verse.
But turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other gods which ye have not known.
So if you turn aside and go after gods that you haven't known besides the Most High God of the Bible, go ahead.
It shall come to pass, when the Lord thy God hath brought thee in unto the land whither thou goest to possess it, that thou shalt put the blessing upon Mount Gerizim.
Okay, Salaki, go ahead and sit on that. So go to chapter 28. So what it was saying, the point that we were getting from that is that there's a blessing and there's a curse, right? If you follow your father as a child, right, and you do what he says, he's going to reward you, right? Or at the least, he's not going to punish you. But if you don't follow what he says, you're going to be punished, right? Exactly. So the curses are a punishment for us not following the Most High. So go ahead and start on verse 1.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So if you listen diligently to the voice of God, go ahead.
To observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day.
And you do all the law, statutes, and commandments that they gave us way back then, that day. Go ahead.
That the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
That we will be the top nation in the whole earth, right? Go ahead.
And all these blessings shall come on thee.
So all these blessings would come upon us and we would be the top nation if we would just follow the Most High. Go ahead.
And overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So it's saying if we would follow the law, statutes, and commandments, follow the Bible, we'd be the top nation. But what happens? So jump down to verse 15.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So it will come to pass. They knew this was going to happen, right? We weren't going to listen to the voice of the Most High. But what happened?
To observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So all these curses will come upon you and overtake you, right? Which is what, I mean, look at our people. The majority of our people don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments. They don't even have a Bible. Or if they do, they've never even picked it up, right? Some people go to the Christian church. We were talking about this yesterday, that you go to the church and you never even read from the Bible, right? So how are you supposed to know what the Most High expects of you if you don't even know his words, right? So go ahead and go to verse 30.
This is the book of Deuteronomy.
Salakia. Actually start on verse 46. 46. So these curses are on us also, not only for punishment, right? But they're on us for this. Go ahead.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign, and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So it says the curses will be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, right? And upon your seeds forever. So they are a sign as to who the real biblical Israelites are. So if you ever wonder, oh, I wonder who the Israelites are, this is a sign telling you who they are. And it says it'll be upon your seed forever, right? So it's not just in the past it happened to the Israelites. No, like we saw in Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, it's continuous, right? It keeps happening upon our seed forever. So go ahead and read verse 28. So when we look at people, certain nations of people, we need to see which nations of people that these curses actually fit. Go ahead.
This is Deuteronomy 28, chapter. Oh, Salaki. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 28. The Lord shall smite thee with madness.
He'll smite you with madness. What is madness? Craziness, right? Last week when we talking to that lady right here, the brother right here told her, did you actually know that we're the Most High's chosen people? Oh yes, I believe that. Did you know that the man they call Jesus Christ is actually a so-called black man? Oh yeah, I know that. But then what was the last thing she said?
She said that Jesus Christ was the devil.
But then she said Jesus Christ was the devil, and we needed to burn this book, and she burned her Bible, 6 months ago?
About 6 months ago.
About 6 months ago, probably 6.66 months ago. And she said that we need to burn our Bibles, and look, she was fine, nothing happened to her. She burned her Bible, right? So that's that madness that it's speaking about. Go ahead and read that one more time.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness, astonishment of heart.
So smite you with craziness and blindness, spiritual blindness, right? Because a lot of people, if we show them something from the Bible, they're spiritually blind, right? They can't see even though we're showing them facts, right? Keep going.
And thou shalt grope at noondays.
So it says you'll grope at noonday. You're looking for the truth. You're looking for the answers, right? Go ahead.
As the blind gropeth in darkness.
Go on.
And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways.
And you will not prosper no matter what you do. Go ahead.
And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore.
So you will be oppressed and spoiled evermore. So we're the most oppressed people in the whole world, basically, right? Go ahead.
And no man shall save thee.
And no man will be able to save you, because who's the only one that can save you? The Most High, right? And we have to turn back to the Most High in order to be saved. So go ahead, next verse.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
So another one of the curses is you will get a wife and another man will lie with her, right? So what do you think happened to the so-called Mexican and Native Americans when the white man came over here?
They killed the men and they raped our wives.
They killed them and they raped the wives, kept them as slaves, as sex slaves, as maidens, handmaids, whatever you want to call them, right? Go ahead.
Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
Another curse is you will build a house, but you won't live in the house, right? So who builds the majority of the houses and buildings around here?
Mexican Americans.
In this area, the so-called Mexican Americans, right? But no matter where you go in the country, the majority of the time it's so-called Hispanic or Latinos, right? My spouse's, my rib's dad is a Guatemalan man, right? He was born in Guatemala. He's built, I'm sure, hundreds of houses over 20, 30 years, right? But he's never owned his own house. Why? Because that's one of the curses. Go ahead and keep going.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
So you shall plant a vineyard, but not gather the grapes. So if you look up the word gather, it says there, what does it say in the Hebrew?
Use it as common meat.
So you won't use it as common meat. In other words, you're not going to get to eat it. So who's the ones that plant the fruits and vegetables in this country?
Mexican Americans.
Mexican Americans, Latinos, Hispanics, right? That's who plant them. But we don't get to eat them, right? We don't reap the benefits of it. We just do it for other people to make money off of it. Go ahead, one more verse.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes.
Your ox will be slain before your eyes. So go ahead and zoom in on this real quick. So right here, this is what they did to the so-called Native Americans in order to cut off their food supply, right? They would eat ox, bison, which are in the same family. They mass murdered all of them. If you look it up, they actually estimated that there was around 50 million ox and bison in the United States, right? When the colonizers first got here. They got down to one point where there was about 500 or 600. You could just look it up on the internet, right? Down to 500 or 600 because they were mass murdering them so that the Native Americans wouldn't have a food supply, right? Go ahead. Next verse.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thine hand.
So it says your children will be given to another people, and you will have no might in your hand, meaning you have no power to get them back, right? So like we just showed, go ahead and zoom in one more time on this. This is what happens nowadays, right? This is what happens. When the so-called Mexicans come back to their own land, they take away their children, and they have no might, no power to get them back, right? Get one more of this. And this is what happened in the past, right? So history always repeats itself. Just like it said in Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. So read that one more time.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
So your eyes will fail with longing for them. You really want them back, but there's no power, no might in your hand, right? So now jump down to verse 34.
So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see.
So another one of the curses is you're going to be mad at all the things that you see, right? You don't think that they're mad when their children get taken away, when their land gets taken away? Of course they are, right? So go ahead and jump down to verse 40, I believe.
Thou shalt,
like it, 37.
and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So another one of the curses is you will become a proverb or a byword. So what is that? That means you're going to be called by something you're actually not, right? So what do they call Mexican Americans? They call them Latino. But the root word of Latino is Latin, which is what the Romans, the ancient Romans or Roman Catholics spoke, right? Then they call us Hispanic, which the root word of
Spain.
Hispanic is, Spain, right? Because the conquerors, the conquistadores, the Christopher Columbus and the other conquistadores that came over here, they were Spaniards, right? They were from Spain. So they called us Hispanic, right? Which we are neither from Spain nor from Italy or from Rome, right? So there's no way that we could be either one of those. Read that one more time.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So we're that proverb, that byword, right? We can't go to the land of Hispanic. We can't go to the land of Latino, right? We can go to Mexico if we knew where we were actually from, but the majority of our people don't know where they're from. So go ahead and give me verse, I believe, 43.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high.
So the stranger, the other nation of people that is within us, will get up very high. Go ahead.
And thou shalt come down very low.
And we will be down very low. That's why we're at the bottom of the barrel, right? Our communities are the most run down. Our schools are the worst. Our people are the most likely to make it to jail, right? Go ahead.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him.
So they will lend to us, and we will not lend to them. Why? Because we don't have the means. So we were a few weeks ago in downtown Brownsville, a couple cities over, and on one of the streets, right, that we were, the street before we were preaching at, and there was what, like 10 or 12 loan stores, I guess you'd call them, where they loan you money, right, for a huge percentage. And it was just one after another, after another, after another.
Whole street full of them.
The whole street was full of them. And that's the poorest part of that city, right? It's the poorest part of the city. The border's like what? Maybe
Walking distance, 2 minutes away.
Maybe 2 minutes walking away, right? Maybe 2 streets over, a couple blocks down. And that's what it is. So go ahead and read that one more time.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
He's the head and you're the tail. That's why he's lending to you. You're at the bottom, he's at the top, right? Go ahead.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee.
He almost bought him out his car, right? Go ahead.
And overtake thee, till thou be destroyed.
So all these curses will come over you and overtake you until you're destroyed, right? So our people are mentally destroyed because they don't even know they're the Most High's chosen people. Go ahead.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee.
So the reason that we're under all these curses is because we're not following the Most High, right? That's what basically what it's saying. So go ahead and give me verse 48.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
You'll serve your what?
Enemies.
We'll serve our enemies, which the Most High is going to serve against us, right? Go ahead.
In hunger and in thirst and in nakedness.
In hunger and thirst and nakedness. Hunger meaning if we're hungry, we want something to eat, we got to go to our enemy. If we want something to drink, we got to go to our enemy. In nakedness meaning we want to get some clothes, we got to go to our what? Our enemy, right? And this is what a lot of people don't want to understand or accept, is that we are under our enemy. The Most High calls them our enemy. Go ahead.
And in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
So in want of all things that we could want, we're going to have to go to our enemy. Why? Because he is up above us and we are down below, right? Go ahead and zoom in on this real quick. So read that last part one more time.
He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
So it says he will put a yoke of iron upon your neck until he has destroyed you. So they put those yokes of iron when they took our people into slavery, and then they mentally destroyed us, and now they don't need the yokes no more, right? Because the chains are now on our brain, as they say, right? So go ahead and read verse 49.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle fleeth.
So he will bring a nation against you from the end of the earth, as swift as an eagle flies, right? So what is, go ahead and zoom in on this. What is the symbol for the United States? It's the eagle, right? As swift as the eagle flies. So if you really look at it, go ahead and get in on this one. The Greeks, the Romans, the Americans, the Edomite nations have always used the same symbol for their people, right? It's always been the eagle. Go ahead and read that one more time.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle fleeth.
One.
A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
A nation whose tongue we will not understand, because the so-called Native Americans and Native Mexicans did not understand that tongue, right? They were speaking a newer form of Hebrew, so they could not understand what the nation of people came and was speaking, right? Go ahead.
A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
So a fierce nation, it doesn't care if you're old, doesn't care if you're young, right? It doesn't matter if you're 14 years old or if you're 60 years old, you could still get shot by a police officer for no reason, right? Go ahead.
And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land.
So they will eat the fruit of your cattle and the fruit of your land. Go ahead.
Until thou be destroyed.
Until we're destroyed. And now, if you think about it, there's not as much fruit or cattle either. That's why we got all these genetically modified foods, right? Most people aren't even eating real food. What are they eating? They're eating a bunch of garbage, right? A bunch of stuff to poison us, to make the pharmaceutical industry more money, which is also owned by the stranger that's above us, right? So go ahead and jump to verse 54.
So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate.
So the man that is tender among you, right? So back in the days, we're brothers, right? I was tender among him. Not that I was feminine or nothing like that, but I was, hey, Ak, you good? You need anything? Everything going all right, right? Go ahead.
His eye shall be evil towards his brother.
His eye shall be turned evil towards his brother, right? Which meaning black on black crime, brown on brown crime, this gang versus that gang, even though we're in the same neighborhood, in the same oppressed conditions, but we still fight each other, right? Go ahead.
And toward the wife of his bosom.
And his eye will be turned evil towards the wife of his bosom. Go ahead.
And towards the remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
And his eye will be turned evil to his children, which he shall leave. So aren't the so-called Mexican, Hispanic, Latino, African-American people, they're known for leaving their children, right? Having growing up without a father, right? I grew up basically without my father, and I know a lot of other brothers that did as well, right? Go ahead.
so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat.
So he will not give to the flesh of his children, right? So go ahead and jump to the next verse.
The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground.
So the woman also, the Israelite woman also, that wouldn't adventure to set her foot upon the sole of the ground. Meaning, back in the days, Israelite women were housekeepers, right? They would take care of their house. They would take care of their children and raise them up. They would rarely go outside of their house, right? Go ahead.
For delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom,
So her eye will also be turned evil to her husband. Go ahead.
and towards her son, and towards her daughter.
And towards her children, right? So don't a lot of women that have younger women, especially this generation, what do they want to do? They want to go out and party and BS and get drunk and smoke weed and do drugs and be a thought, go to the club, do all these things. And what about their kids? They leave their kids with their grandma or whoever they could leave them with. Right? Their mom, whoever they could leave them with. It's the weekend. Oh, I don't got kids on the weekend, right? That's the way it is. That's one of the curses. So Salaki, give me verse 65 or 64.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people,
So we'll be scattered among all people. Go ahead.
from one end of the earth even unto the other.
So we're not saying that just the Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, and African Americans are the chosen people, right? That would be ignorant because the scriptures say that we'll be scattered to the four corners of the four winds of the earth, right? Go ahead.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
So it says we'll serve other gods of wood and stone, right? So what is the wooden image that Christians follow and bow down to?
Cross.
The cross, right? So the wood is the Christianity or the cross of Christianity. Then on the other hand, the other one of the other biggest religions is the Nation of Islam or the Muslims, right? And what do they bow down and worship in front of in Mecca? It's called the is it the Kabbalah or something? No, I forgot what it's called. It escapes me right now. But the big old stone that they say fell out of space, right? The big black stone that they got to bow down and pray to, right? That is of wood and of stone. So go ahead and read the next verse.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease,
And you will find no ease amongst these nations. Go ahead.
neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest.
And your feet won't have rest because we're the ones doing all the work, right? Go ahead.
But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind.
So we'll have a trembling of heart, right? Sorrow and no rest, right? So go ahead and zoom in on this. So a lot of people don't know about this right here. Everybody knows about this, right? The so-called African Americans and slaves that were hung back in the days, right? But a lot of people don't know about this right here, which is what they call the Latino lynchings, right? The so-called Mexican people were just as oppressed as the African American people. As you can see right here on the sign, it says no dogs, no Negroes, no Mexicans, okay? That was in El Paso, Texas. That's a few hours away from here. That was in 1929. That wasn't even 100 years ago that they were doing this to our people, hanging our people, right? You got another sign down here. It says, we serve whites only. No Spanish, no Mexicans. Another one right here. It says, Mexicans, keep going. We can't take care of our own, right? So a lot of people don't know, not only were the so-called African American slaves oppressed, but it was also our people, the so-called Mexicans, Latinos, and Hispanics that were oppressed, right? Go ahead and give me Isaiah 42 and 22. Isaiah 42 and 22. So according to the Bible, it said that the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom in the last days were going to be oppressed together, right? So there's some people that'll say that only so-called Negroes are Israelites, right? And that they didn't come to America, that the Native Americans and Hispanics are not Israelites, right? Only the ones brought over here through the transatlantic slave trade are Israelites, right? But the Bible clearly says that we would be oppressed together. Go ahead.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled.
So we are people robbed and spoiled. Go ahead.
They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses.
So we're snared in holes and hid in prison houses because we are the most likely people to end up in prison, right? Come on that.
They are for a prey, and none delivereth.
We're for a prey and no one delivers us, right?
For a spoil, and none saith, restore.
So we are for a prey and we're held in prison houses and nobody cares because once you go to jail, that's it, right? You're disconnected from the real world and you're out of there, man. That's it. Nobody cares about you anymore, right? Until you come out, and then you're more than likely gonna end up right back in there. So go ahead and give me Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter. Jeremiah 3 and 18, I believe. So our people, the Latinos, Hispanics, Native American, Mexican American people, this is talking about our people, man. It's very clear to understand when you understand history and the scriptures that it's talking specifically about our people. Go ahead.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, verse 18. In those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel.
So the house of Judah is the southern kingdom, right? Judah, Levi, Benjamin. The house of Israel is the other tribes from the northern kingdom that came over here according to 2nd Ezra, which we'll get after this. Go ahead.
And they shall come together out of the land of the north.
Out of the land of the what?
The land of the north.
Out of the land of the north. We're going to come together out of the land of North America. Go ahead.
To the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers.
So we're going to come together out of this land in the last days, right? Back to the land which the Most High gave as an inheritance to our fathers, which we know is talking about the land of Israel, right? So go ahead and give me the 50th chapter, Jeremiah 50. So it clearly says that the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom would come together out of the land of the north, right? So the northern kingdom that came over here was the natives, Hispanics, Latinos, Mexicans, whatever you want to call them, right? Which are really the northern kingdom of Hebrew Israelites. Will come together with the southern kingdom, which is those that came on the transatlantic slave trade, and will come together out of the land of the north into Israel. This is just one more little pointer as to who our people are today. Go ahead.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, verse 33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast, and they refused to let them go.
So it says we were oppressed together, right? So that just kills the argument of people saying that the northern kingdom is still in Africa or is still on the other side of the world, right? So now go ahead and give me 2nd Ezra 13. We'll go ahead and finish it with that. So now, how did our people end up over here in the first place, right? If the southern kingdom was brought through the transatlantic slave trade, but the northern kingdom went into captivity way before the southern kingdom actually did. We were actually taken into captivity by the Assyrians around 600 BC, right? So this is how we ended up over here in the Americas.
Chapter 13 now.
Yeah, chapter 13.
Start on 1.
Start on verse. It's 50 something.
40. Start on 40. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land.
So the 10 tribes, which are the northern kingdom, were carried away prisoners, captives, out of their own land. Go ahead.
In the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmansar, the king of Assyria, led away captive.
So the king of Assyria took them captive. Go ahead.
And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land.
Go ahead.
But they took this counsel amongst themselves.
So the northern kingdom tribes took counsel amongst themselves, right? And what did they do?
That they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
So they took counsel among themselves to leave the heathen and go to a country where no one had ever dwelt, right? Go ahead.
that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land.
So that they could follow the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Bible in that land, right? Go ahead.
And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river.
Go ahead.
For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood, till they were passed over.
So the Most High showed them signs to get them over here to the Americas, and held still the flood, right? Meaning held still the waters, right? So even nowadays, like we were talking to the brother last night, he does shrimping, and what did he say? He said the waters are real choppy right now, right? It's dangerous nowadays with the technology we have in these boats. So imagine back then not having any motors or anything like that. It was real dangerous, right? So it said the Most High held still the waters so they could go through. Go ahead.
For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth.
So it took them about a year and a half without any motor to come from that side of the world to this side of the world, right? And it took them about a year and a half. So if you read in, I believe it's the book of Kings, go ahead and zoom in on this. The book of Kings, it said they would go to the land of Ophir and come and get gold and then come back. And it took them about 3 years, right? So they came from here all the way on this side of the world, all the way around Africa, which is much larger than this map shows, and ended up in South America, where they spread, Central America, North America, right? And if you take a look down here, this is the routes that Christopher Columbus took to come over here. And if you read his actual diaries, it says he used the book of Ezra. He used these verses we just read to find more slaves, right? He came over here to get some Hebrew slaves and take them back to Spain and back to the Vatican and that area, right? So this is just further proof that the so-called Native Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, Mexican Americans are of the 12 tribes of Israel, and we're waking up, like it says in these last days, that our people would wake up and come together, right? So all praise to the Most High, Yahawah, Sham, Yahawashi, and Shalawam.